This is my review of the classic video game console, the Intellivision. As a video game collector, like back in the day as in like early 80s, back when I was maybe like kindergarten, first grade, second grade, I did not have this thing. I had the Atari 2600. I only sort of heard about it. Everybody else I knew who had an alternate console was the ColecoVision. But I would always like hear about this thing, but I never actually saw one in person. So when I got older and I wanted to like collect everything I never had, naturally I wanted this. I used to see these ads for all these cool video games in the back of comic books. I was like, oh wow, I want to play them. But guess what? They weren't for my system. They were from some other thing. You got He-Man. You got the Kool Aid Man game. Dungeons and Dragons. Another Dungeons and Dragons game. Bump and Jump. Oh my god, I totally wanted these games, but I couldn't play them. Intellivision lasted until the late 80s, but I have no clue where they sold them. I never saw anybody who had one. But apparently, I think they sold them through some sort of catalog. Where did you get the catalog? Personal memories from back in the day. There was like, I don't remember any of this stuff. So looking at this as a vintage video game collector, like Intellivision versus Atari, Atari kicks its ass because these controllers don't work. You have a hard time finding another system that actually does work. Most of the ones on eBay are untested and listed as not working, and you fix it, and I really don't want to go through trying to fix it, because every time I try and fire this thing up, it's like, I think I can fix it. And I just tape in there and everything, and it just plays like a piece of crap most of the time. So I'll just leave that one unplugged. My second problem with it is kind of the game selection. I mean, if you're two players, you have lots of sports games to choose from, but just about every sports game I've played, except for bowling, all the sports games were two players. So back when in the day when you were a little kid, you probably had like your little brother or sister to play these games with, so that was cool. As an adult collector, adults don't really want to play this stuff with you. First you even have to explain what an Intellivision is to them, so that kind of stinks. So I've never actually really played NFL football, Armor Battle, Donkey Kong. Very pitiful. So pitiful you have to play it. It's just, why did they even release it? It's that bad. It's as bad as, not quite as bad as E.T. for Atari, but it stinks so bad it's laughable. You have to buy it. If you have an Intellivision, you have to play this. So far, the best game I've ever played on the system, my favorite one, Burger Time. Classic. Once you beat this game once or twice, Beauty and the Beast kind of gets repetitive and boring. And it's considered one of the Intellivision classics, but it's just really not that good. Atlantis, they also had it on Atari. The graphics in this are a little bit better. The gameplay is a little bit deeper. But, I don't know. The Atari one was more simple, and their graphics were really colorful too, but in a different way. It had its own charm, so it's kind of an equal. Pitfall, same exact game as Atari. Exactly the same. So here's a really good one. We got the Dungeons and Dragons ones. We got this one, and then we got this one, the Maze Walker. This one was pretty cool because I still have the box for it. I never beat it, and I just like looking at it for its, for what it was in the day. It seemed pretty cool. This one you can probably find a million videos of. This is the first one. Just a little stick figure running around. I thought it was going to be cooler because it was Dungeons and Dragons, but I don't know, it was just kind of boring. This one, I thought it was felt like you're actually playing the game. Star Strike, Good graphics for its day. Actually kind of stunk. It was boring. I'll say just get the system alone for, other than Burger Time, Astro Smash. This is basically their flagship, I think. There's asteroids coming down. It's kind of a variation on asteroids and Space Invaders. It's awesome. Lock and Chase, another classic. I finally got this after seeing it in the comic book ads from like 25, 30 years ago. Did not disappoint. Although the controllers on the system make it really hard to play. I played the Atari version and it's still pretty hard too. But it's really fun. Kind of like a Pac-Man, but crossed with Mousetrap. Tron. Cool at first, gets kind of old after a while. This is part of my problem with the system. You have to have the little overlay cards. Sea Battle, I have no clue how to play it. Blackjack, I have no clue how to play it. Don't have an overlay card. Bowling, I have no clue how to play it. Don't have an overlay card. I don't feel like sitting down, writing them all down in a pad, in a notebook, and sitting there right next to the Intellivision. So either I get them, or off Atari2600.com, they sell like a bunch of old video game stuff, but they sell it pretty cheap, but I just have not been motivated to get it because these games probably stink. Here's some of them overlay cards. Some of them were like self-explanatory, but you know, kind of figured that the side buttons were shoot. You know, other overlay cards like football were going to constantly have to resort to the manual just as what was 1, 2, 3, or 4. I don't know. I never actually played the game. I have it. I turned it on, looked at it. That was about it. Then I picked up this for PlayStation. It's got a good selection of the games I don't have for the system, but you know what? Playing it on the PlayStation 2, it really stunk. It was cool to see the games, because I kind of like look at these as like to look at them from a historical point of view, but the gameplay on this was terrible with the Intellivision, or not having the Intellivision controller. Putting it on a PlayStation is worse because they try and emulate it with pulling up a little menu screen along the side. It's terrible, but I only got this for about like $7 or $8. Picked this little bad boy, plug and play, at the thrift shop, and only paid $5 for it. This had Shark on it, and I like that game. Basically, some of the other games, since I didn't have directions for this, and some of the other games are kind of unplayable. I did not know how to play the football game, the baseball game on there at all, but kind of fills in the gaps in my collection here just to see the Intellivision as it was. So I got about 25 cartridges or so, and the plug and play and the PlayStation 2 disc, but I kind of lost my interest in collecting for it any further. There's still maybe 1 or 2 more games I'd like to get, because I don't have Pac-Man for Intellivision. I try to get that on every console I own. But there's probably about 40 games that you can find just about in any flea market out of the 125 or so that they released, and the rest are really obscure and they can get kind of expensive, and I really don't think they're worth buying or even tracking down. You know, because I know they had like a motocross one that was probably $30, $40. Like that, there's no Intellivision game I think would be worth that much to play. And Diner, the sequel to Burger Time, that gets really expensive, but I don't know. It's kind of neat, but I don't think many people feel the need to be a completist over this system. So looking back, as a review for what it was back in the day, television had, you know, a few points on Atari that Atari didn't have. Deeper gameplay and the keypad and stuff I've never been able to play yet, like Sea Battle, because I didn't have the overlays and I have no clue how to play this stupid thing. But Atari games, you were able to just like pick up and play, and like Space Invaders, there's no explanation to them. So you know, if you were like more sophisticated and you wanted to play a really good baseball game, you would have had this back in the day. But as an adult collector, nobody's playing that with you. It's 2-player only. My system couldn't even play 2 player though, because I only have one working controller. So if you're a completist, I say pick one up. But if you just want to play old games, just play the Atari.